On today's program, meet a rabbi from Israel who claims he has proof that ancient Jewish tradition supports the idea of a divine Messiah. A Messiah who would suffer and die for the sins of mankind. A shocking new revelation today on Jewish Voice.
Shalom and welcome to Jewish Voice, a program to help you to understand the Jewish roots of your Christian faith, Bible prophecy, and world events surrounding Israel. Modern Judaism rejects the concept of a divine Messiah. In fact, many Jews no longer even believe in a literal Messiah at all. They've replaced this idea with the concept of a Messianic age, a utopian society that's brought about through good deeds. But this was not the case 2,000 years ago. The Jewish people longed for a Redeemer, an anointed one that would deliver them from the tyranny of Rome. My guest today is going to take us back in time. He claims that a divine Messiah was clearly found in Jewish thought. Please welcome perhaps one of the most interesting guests that we've ever had on this program, Rabbi Itzhak Shapira. Itzhak, welcome. Hello. How great to have you. I think, because I've met you and talked to you, that you have one of the most interesting stories and are doing one of the most interesting things of any Jewish believer I've ever met, because you've spent over 15 years. You're Israeli, first of all, right?
Yes, yes.
I mean, everybody can hear it. You're Israeli. You were brought up in an observant Jewish home.
Yes.
Just before we go into the research, just give us a quick background.
I was raised up in Israel in traditional normative Judaism. As a matter of fact, I thought everybody in the world is Jewish. Okay, the first time I heard about somebody named Jesus, I thought his last name was Christ. Yes,
Son of Mr. and Mrs. Christ.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was raised in Judaism, and that's basically how I was brought up in the traditions of our fathers.
So Jesus was a non-issue for you, right?
No, I tell you when it was an issue. I was 7 years old in Purim, and I remember asking to be the round table knight. And I came to the tailor, and my mother said to me, run and get your costume. And they handed me the round table knight costume with a cross. That was the first time I saw this cross, and I was terrified. I cried. I said, I will not take it from you, sir, because this is not something that does not belong to us. And I ran
in Israel, you had a costume with the cross.
In Israel.
Whoops.
That was my first something to do with Christianity, and that's my first memory.
So it repelled you?
It repelled, of course.
Yeah, we have a 2,000-year history. We could go into that, but what's so unique about your ministry is that you spent over 15 years researching the true identity of the Messiah in Jewish thought.
Yes.
That's amazing to me. You had to dig through a lot of history.
Yes.
So talk about that search.
You know, I walked into a Messianic synagogue by what I thought was an accident almost 18 years ago, and people were raising their hand, Jonathan, we're doing this and calling on their Yeshua. And I think, I don't see the imaginary window. What are they calling on? So I was thinking to myself, I got to find out about this guy. I turned every stone, starting with our own Tanakh, which I thought I knew, going to our Jewish writings, okay, to find out what our people, I could care less what any Christian would tell me about the Messiah, what our people thought about the Messiah, okay? And that's where I found the true identity of the Jewish Mashiach, right there. It was right under my nose, and I didn't even know it.
Well, you actually researched materials that most people are totally unaware of. You went back into some very unique Jewish sources. And really, you've taken on one of the toughest debates of all time, that the Messiah was divine in Jewish thought, in ancient Jewish thought.
Yes.
Talk about that. That's fascinating.
Yes, first of all, let's set this record straight, to be honest. If you have 3 Jews, you will receive 10 opinions, okay? I am not going to say that all of Judaism say that the Messiah is divine. But what I discovered, that especially going pre-Rambam, who was a great Jewish scholar in the Middle Ages, the idea of a divine Messiah going back to our Tanaim, to the Yeshua's eras, you find these ideas that the Messiah is divine there in the 1st and 2nd, the 3rd and 4th century. The divinity of Messiah is part of Judaism.
But you really have to dig for it, because you won't find any Jewish scholar today that will agree that the Messiah is going to be divine that I've ever met.
The proof is in the definition. How do we define it? But I will tell you this. I walked, there was times I read what was written about the divinity of Messiah, and my hand was even shaking of what I was reading. And I had to do this because it was shaking.
We're talking about a cover-up here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Of the truth. Hey, we have to take a break. When we come back, Rabbi Shapira presents his case for Jesus being the Messiah, the divine Messiah of Israel. Don't go away. I'm back with a fascinating guest, Rabbi Itzhak Shapira, who recently wrote a new book. It's called The Return of the Kosher Pig. The name of the book, although attention-getting, is not a gimmick. It represents an important Jewish topic. I think it is attention-getting, the return of the kosher pig still. And it's humorous, too. What is the kosher pig?
Okay, so let's put on the Jewish glasses for a split second and understand it. Every Hebrew word has dual meaning, yes? When I started to prepare and look at Jewish end time, the way Judaism view end time event, this Messianic age and Messianic era, there is a question that asked by our sages: why is the pig? Why God gave the animal pig the name pig? Okay, why pig or pig? Because in Hebrew names are important, and you find out that the word pig in Hebrew is actually rooted in the Hebrew word to return. The Hebrew word pig, chazir, and chazar are the same Hebrew word. And they continue on to explain that the one who is the chazir, who will return to Israel, is none other than the Messiah himself, that will appear first as unkosher to our people. But he will return, and he will be so clean and so kosher, he will become the defender of Israel.
That is, it's so brilliant, but you really have to understand it. It's really deep, too. So this is really a fascinating book. I've been in the Messianic Jewish movement 30 years, and I've never seen anything like this. So the book examines the nature of the Messiah through traditional Jewish views. And you say that as you researched traditional Jewish literature and dug back 1,500 years, 1,600
More
years,
than that.
2,000 years, you discovered that the idea of a divine Messiah was part of traditional Jewish thought. What's so fascinating about this is that that's been removed today from Judaism, likely because of the Middle Ages and all the disputations with Christianity and trying to keep conversion from happening. But take us back in time.
Oh, yes. First of all, we need to understand one thing. All of us heard those claims that Judaism does not believe in a divine Messiah, Judaism does not believe in a virgin birth, etc., etc. Everybody that ever tried to share...
And most not even as Messiah anymore.
Absolutely.
Liberal Judaism.
We need to always qualify it and understand it's depending to which Judaism. In essence, we have seven brands of Judaism, okay? We have the Tanaic Judaism of Yeshua's time, and then we have the Amoraic Judaism that canonized the Talmud, okay? And then we have the Geonim and the Chachamim and the Rishonim. These are different era, and each era believe something completely different about Judaism. So while it's true that some in Judaism today reject the divine Messiah, if you go back in the time machine to the 1st and 2nd, 3rd century, absolutely this faith was very common faith.
You're mentioning names that most people have never even heard about before. If you're a student of history and you really want to dig back to who the original Yeshua, Jesus, really was, there's things in this book you've never, ever seen before. Never.
Yeah, and let me give you another example. Look, I don't wear glasses. I went to get my eye exam, okay? And they told me, sir, you are blind in one eye. So I came the next day, I memorized the last line, and I tried to read the same line again. There was a problem. They changed the line on me, okay? The problem that when we read the Bible, most of us, we read it in some sort of a blurriness, linguistically and contextually. There is actually 4 layers that I introduce in the book of reading the Bible. The simplistic way, what is called the clue, through sermon or midrashic, what we call in Hebrew midrashic, and through the secrets. all 4 layers. When you read this, you understand that every verse, I can open up every verse in the Hebrew Bible and show you that it's pointing to one thing. Any verse with these 4 methodologies to the Mashiach. Any verse in the Hebrew Bible.
How widespread 2,000 years ago was the idea that the Messiah, the Mashiach, would be divine?
Well, it is engraved in Judaism. It is there. I'll give you an example. Here you have 2 good Jewish boys, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi, as an example. And they're arguing upon themselves on Daniel 7. And Rabbi Akiva said to Rabbi Yossi, "You're 2 good Jewish boys." He said to him, "Do you know why it says thrones, that there were thrones in heaven?" He's talking about Daniel 7:9. Rabbi Akiva, of course I know why it says that. Yeah, because there's one throne in heaven for God and another throne in the heaven for the Messiah. Because he is divine. And Rabbi Yossi shouted at him, said, "How dare you make the Messiah divine?"
Amazing. Yeah. We see the pre-existence so clearly, I think, in Scripture.
Sure.
And then trying to deal with, well, if he's pre-existent, he's from old, from everlasting,
Yes.
Micah 5:2. How do we understand this? But you're uncovering things that have been intentionally hidden. Now, in the book, you make the case in 5 parts for the divinity of the Messiah.
Yes.
Like a lawyer. Take us through the 5 parts.
So the first part in any case is a framework. Look, if I stand here, or you, Jonathan, to our Jewish people and say, "I feel, I believe, I think on anything," they say, "Who are you to think? Who are you to believe?" You can misinterpret it. I say, "No, I don't think, I don't feel, and I don't believe." They think, they feel, they believe. And who are the they? Those are the sages of the last 2,000 years. They absolutely believe in a divine Messiah. There's many voices within Judaism.
And I want people to understand, this is what debate in Judaism is based on.
Yes.
The ancient sages and arguing what they taught and so on.
The baseline, again, it is going to be the literal textual meaning of the word. But like I tell you, there are 4 layers of looking the Scripture. Amazingly, even Yeshua himself would use these 4 layers in the New Testament. When we read the words of Yeshua, he used those layers when he spoke himself. You see this throughout the Bible, and they point to one thing at the end of the day, to the divine Jewish Messiah.
I want to say, too, one of the purposes of this program is to help restore the Jewish roots of the faith, the Hebraic roots of the faith. And you represent someone that's looking at Scripture through Hebraic eyes with great, great depth.
Yes.
Okay, so we have the framework, and then the second is the evidence, right?
No, actually, before that, we have the identification of the case. You know, it's also an historical book. Judaism had dozens upon dozens of messiahs in the last 2,000 years, false messiahs. Yet there is one name that is hated above any name, and it's the name, the precious name of Yeshua. What makes him hated, really, is what I'm dealing with. What is the charges against him? And his charges is that he claimed to hold the key to the kingdom of God. He held the key to forgive sins, etc., etc. So we need to identify this case. You know, look at Noah in the Scriptures. Okay, Noah is the first prototype of the Messiah. Okay? Now, interesting, if you look at the name Noah in Hebrew, right, he was rejected when he built the ark. His name in Hebrew, most people know, it said Noah found favor in the eyes of God. It's a flip word. Noah and favor is the same word.
Very good.
But his name also means, may his name be blotted out. People don't understand. That's what the name Noah also means. That is exactly the name of the Messiah. In Hebrew, that's what our people call him. May his name be blotted out.
And most Israelis don't even know it.
Yeah, it's the tragedy. So first, before we can look at the case, then we need to have an accusation. And the accusation here that Yeshua says, "I am and the Father are one, and nobody come to the Father unless he comes through me." Is that?
And yet there were sages in the day that understood that he was the Messiah.
Of course.
And had the groundwork for it. Okay, so let's go to the evidence now, the most important part of the case.
The evidence is the heart of the books. We have broken it to 5 parts. Instead of saying, you know, Yeshua is God or Yeshua is not God, we took a different approach. We looked at the 5 attributes of the Messiah, of the Jewish Messiah, through Jewish eyes. And very briefly, one of them has to deal with the idea that he can take upon himself the sin, not of Israel, the sins of humanity. Okay? Another one, the idea that he will be worshipped. Think about it. God says, Deuteronomy 17:3, the 10 Commandments, nobody will be worshipped except to me. Yet we find in Jewish thoughts that the Messiah will be bowed down to. Okay, so we look at through this again through very Jewish eyes. We look at the Torah. Who has the authority not just to utter the Torah, but also to expand the Torah? We look at the origins of the Messiah, and in the last remez, we look at the relationship as there's an expression in Hebrew. As the first Redeemer came, so is the last Redeemer. The first Redeemer was Moses. He came in Nisan, in the month of Nisan. The last Redeemer was promised to our people in the month of Nisan as well.
You're just scratching the surface.
Yeah,
there is so much in this book. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And to learn the rest of the case, you just have to read the book. I want to congratulate you because this is an amazing piece of work. And if you have any interest at all in digging back through history and understanding who Jesus really was, Yeshua, the divine Messiah of Israel, this book is like nothing else you've ever read. The Return of the Kosher Pig, it's one of the most unique books that I've ever seen. It's groundbreaking, and I don't say that lightly, and it provides solid evidence that Yeshua, Jesus, is the divine Messiah promised through the ancient Jewish prophets. Amazing book. We'll be right back.
Bueno, como se pudieron dar cuenta, es una entrevista al Rabino Itzhak Shapira por Jonathan Bernis de la página Jewish Voice, otro ministerio que se dedica también a llevar la palabra y presentar a un Mesías divino dentro del pensamiento judío. Esta es la página de nuestro congreso acá en Bogotá, www.shubu2016.com. Aquí está toda la información, datos del congreso, biografías, inscripción, alojamiento, enseñanzas, contacto. El congreso es en junio 11 a junio 13. Es un sábado, domingo y lunes con un almuerzo el día domingo y 3 días de congreso. Esta fiesta, aparte que es la fiesta de Shavuot o Pentecostés, como se la conoce, es la fiesta de la entrega de la Torá en el monte Sinaí que el Señor le dio a Moisés, mientras el pueblo reposaba en la parte baja de la montaña, y se hizo un becerro de oro, y se tuvieron que romper las tablas y hacer unas nuevas. Es este tiempo también cuando Pedro estaba predicando en Israel, y 3,000 de los que habían muerto por hacerse este becerro de oro a cargo de los levitas por una instrucción del Señor directa a Moisés, esos 3,000 son restaurados y reciben el Espíritu Santo en la predicación de Pedro, y las personas que estaban alrededor de ellos pensaron que estaban borrachos a las 9 de la mañana. También tiene un significado en nuestras vidas de sanear todo lo que está en nuestro corazón, iras, contiendas, orgullos, vanidades, todo aquello que nos aparta del Señor, que finalmente son las tablas escritas dentro de nuestro corazón. Esa es la verdadera circuncisión, está escrita en nuestro corazón. Los sacrificios de animales y holocaustos fueron buenos hasta determinado tiempo, pero no por eso los debemos ignorar y conocer en qué contexto bíblico esto sucedió. Lo mismo que el templo, lo mismo que la función de los sacerdotes, de los levitas, de los que cargaban, que eran los mismos que cargaban el arca, el rey David y todo aquello alrededor del Mishkan o el tabernáculo, y llevarlo a ese nuevo y mejor pacto que es nuestro Mesías Yeshua. Como lo dije en el anterior video, es un pacto que se renovó, es un pacto renovado. Esta fiesta tiene un carácter y una profundidad dentro de la profecía en cuanto a la venida del Mesías. La fiesta también tiene un significado agrícola la primera cosecha o la lluvia temprana y la tardía también. Es en esta época donde donde pasaron cosas muy importantes a nivel bíblico. Es por eso que es una invitación para ustedes, para las personas que estén acá en Bogotá y las personas que puedan venir de otras partes, de otras ciudades, de otros países. Ahí está la información. Entonces, queridos amados, nos vemos muy pronto. Espero que les haya gustado esta pequeña entrevista al Rabino Itzhak Shapira, quien es el que nos va a traer los Sefer, los rollos de Torah. También desde Israel, nuestra congregación Yoel también está teniendo su propia cumplimiento profético de tener nuestros propios rollos escritos en el lenguaje original, en el hebreo, traídos desde Israel por el propio Rabino. Esto es algo maravilloso. Pero bueno, nos vemos muy pronto y espero que muchos de ustedes puedan asistir a este evento. Bendiciones. Chao, chao.